Alright guys, so here we have really Scrooge's reaction to the Ghost of Christmas Past. Let's read it through first. He seized the extinguisher cap and by a sudden action pressed it down upon its head. The spirit dropped beneath it so that the extinguisher covered its whole form. But though Scrooge pressed it down with all his force, he could not hide the light, which streamed from under it in an unbroken flood upon the ground. Alright here, so Scrooge is trying to... We know the Ghost of Christmas Past has got a flame on its crown, on its head, a light coming from its head. And that symbolises truth, it symbolises hope. What does Scrooge try and do? Well, he tries to extinguish it. He seized the extinguisher cap. So the Ghost of Christmas Past has an extinguisher. Now, an extinguisher would be something, in Victorian times, it's a sort of a cone-shaped piece of metal with a handle that you put over a candle to extinguish it. No electricity in those days, candlelight, you put it over a candle or a flame to extinguish it. It's a cone of metal. He tries to use that on the head of the Ghost of Christmas Past. So, fairly rude. I don't know the etiquette of dealing with flaming ghosts, but it seems pretty rude to me. But it also really, I think more importantly, shows us that Scrooge is not yet ready to hear the truth and redeem himself. All right. If this light symbolises truth and hope, Scrooge rejects it. And he rejects it quite aggressively. If we look at that verb seized and follows up with sudden action, it shows an aggressiveness at Scrooge. And I don't think that's because Scrooge is an aggressive person, but I think it shows his desperation to avoid confronting his sins. I think he's fully aware of his sins. I think he's fully aware of that he's not living his life in a good manner, but he doesn't want to confront it. And there's desperation here to not want to confront it. So this is the kind of first stage of this quite long quote. Now, there's no need to remember all of this quote and try and memorise the whole thing. It's far too long for that. But obviously, you can just take the bits highlighted here and use and embed those quotations. So that's the first half of it. The second half is really the fact that Scrooge miserably failed to do this. Okay, he could not hide the light, which streamed from under it in an unbroken flood upon the ground. So we see here he cannot hide. If the light symbolises truth, he cannot hide from this truth. Its power is far stronger than anything Scrooge has. And its power here is shown by the metaphorical language of flood, and again emphasising a kind of extended metaphor of streamed, I guess. A little bit in the context box for you there about the sort of biblical version of free will. What we have here is free will, isn't it? Scrooge has an opportunity to see the truth, but chooses not to. And man has that free will. Now, God, according to the Bible, gave us free will. He told Adam and Eve they could eat anything in the Garden of Eden. Don't eat that apple, though, whatever you do. And obviously, through free will, Eve was tempted by the devil into eating the apple. And that was the first sin, the original sin. We have a choice in this world to do good or to do bad. It is that simple, isn't it? Whether you're religious or not, that's fairly true, isn't it? We have a choice to do good or to do bad. All right, and here, this is what Dickens is saying. We have a choice here. You have the light and you have the extinguisher. And sadly, old Scrooge chose to extinguish it.